we've added more people from the waiting room. I think we'll just go into the class and ask more people so that we don't take much time with this introduction. As you share with us in the class, we'll encourage that you just introduce yourself so that we'll get to know you better. So what we're looking at today is data mining. Data mining. And I'm going to encourage us to use the chat much more. If you want to ask questions, just type your question in the chat box. And if you need to speak back to us, you can also unmute your mic. But we'll be starting this series on analytics with data mining. I'm sure we may have heard that data is the new oil. And if it's the new oil, if you are familiar with crude oil, the first process is actually mining the resources. But mining it is not sufficient until you process this oil into valuable resources like what we have as our petrol, as plastics, and the rest of that. So the first process that we're going to be looking at is the mining of data, how to gather these data sets. And then we'll be looking at contemporary techniques that we use for data collection. And so we'll be looking at that. And so, like I said, data has been described as a new oil, but just like crude oil, it is not valuable until it is refined into usable products. So data is everywhere. The air you breathe is data. What we are saying now is data. Everything around us is data. Unlike oil that maybe some hydrocarbon deposits underneath the soil, data is everywhere. Data is everything, and all we do, either in words, either in pictures, whatever you see all around us, everything is data. Somebody is making use of all of this for decision making. We just admitted again that, yeah, okay, thank you for that feedback that some people are waiting to be admitted. We just admitted another set who were in the waiting room. But let me go to the waiting room again. Okay, so like I was saying, that data is the new oil, and this oil is not valuable unless it is processed. But unlike Bridget, you are having audio problem. Please check your internet. Can you all just give me feedback if you can hear me and my audio is clear where you are? Just give me a feedback of yes if you can hear me. Just give me a yes if you can hear me, and if you can see my slide, just also give me a yes. Some other persons cannot handle the admission because it's one single platform. It's a single platform, so, and this is the paid for version, unlike the, yeah, so I'm saddled with the responsibility to still admit the people. Okay, thank you, yes. If it is breaking, you like to check your internet where you are. Dina, you like to check? Yes, Kasali said he can hear and can see the slides, meaning that the audio is fine. So please check your internet where you are. That may be what you're experiencing. Okay, good. So just a way of introduction, you know, most times when we talk of data, a lot of us see data as just maybe some numbers, some numerics, but data goes beyond just numbers. Data is everything around us, including us ourselves, including everybody participating in this training. We're all data. In fact, if you're very conversant with social media, maybe Facebook, you will notice that on Facebook, there is an advert that always shows up on your page. And that advert is always very close to either what you have been thinking of or what you are interested in. Maybe one day you just talked about clothes on your Facebook page. In about 2 or 3 days, you will see adverts on clothes. You spoke about traveling, and in 1 week, you see an advert about travels and tours. Because you are data, what you are saying is data, and somebody is harnessing all of this and using it to take decision, either business decision or whatever kind of decision. So data is everything. Ujunwa, you cannot hear me. Please check your internet, because the feedback here is that they can hear me. Please check your system, check your internet connection. Okay, good. So what are we going to be doing in this module? This module, we're going to cover it in 2 days. One, we're going to be looking at data collection plan, how to plan for data collection. We're going to look at how to develop instruments for data collection. Then we're going to be looking at mobile data collection tools. Data collection has changed from what we used to have. If you did your postgraduate studies, maybe some 5-10 years, you probably use paper-based questionnaires, where you did your questionnaires in papers and you were distributing up and up here and there, you know. But things have changed. Now you can collect data using your mobile devices, even without internet. There are ones who requires internet, there are ones that don't require internet, meaning that we can now do studies in remote communities where there's no internet, and then, okay, good, I'm glad you can hear now, good. I'm glad you can hear. So meaning we can now do data collection from remote communities, whether we have internet or we don't have internet. And we're going to be looking at how to do all of that. I got feedback from some of the participants who sent mail. If you are using iOS, if you are using Apple phone, of course, you know that Apple is for the high-end users. Yeah, so most of these mobile data collection tools are designed for remote data collection. So they kind of think that Android is more available even at rural communities. So they are mostly on Android. However, for iPhone users, I've sent them a link that they can use, which we can modify, and it will work like some of the data collection tools we'll look at. Okay, to start with, I'm going to ask us a question. Have you ever been involved in data collection? Have you ever been involved in data collection? So if you are, just give me yes. Okay, Austin, good. Yes, yes, Ghana, yes. Okay, Moreni Keji, yes. Uchenna, Jeku, good, good. Oh, Musa, no, fantastic. So this is going to be a very interesting one for you. Yes, Umar, yes. Ojonwa, yes. Nicholas, yes. Okay, so for those who have been involved in data collection, this is going to be furthering on what you've already done before. And for those who have not, this is going to be an added knowledge for you. Data collection is the baseline for analytics. Of course, you cannot analyze what don't exist. So that means the first thing you do is to collect the data. When you go to the hospital, your heartbeat is a data. So somebody uses this Sphig to measure your heartbeat and use that data that he has collected to make decision on your health status. Okay, so data is everywhere. How to collect it differ by data type. So different kind of data type has different way of collecting them. Okay, so for instance, the heartbeat, we can collect the heartbeat using a Sphig machine. Now, so these different kind of data types requires different kind of tools. Of course, we can't exhaust data collection in the 2 days. However, data collection is still embedded in all of the trainings we'll be doing in the next 4 weeks. When we will come to qualitative analysis, how to analyze qualitative data, how to analyze things like pictures, like images, like words, like videos, how to analyze them, how to make meaning of text-based data. You'll be seeing another techniques for collecting those kind of data. How to analyze geospatial kind of data that are latitude and longitude, location-based. You will also be seeing how we collect them. But we're going to start from the basic of the basic. And as we make progress with the analytics, we'll also be seeing how to collect different data types. But to start with, we'll start with the data collection plan. And there's this saying that without a systematic way to start and keep your data clean, bad data will happen. How do we get, data analytics is garbage in, garbage out. If you plug in garbage, you will analyze garbage, then the output result will also be garbage. So, but once we put in systems and we have a systematic way to collect our data, we're likely to avoid the issue of having bad data. So, and that's why we will talk about the data collection plan. And what is this data collection plan? It's actually a detailed document, and I will show us what it looks like. It's a detailed document that describes the exact steps as well as the sequence that you will need to follow in gathering your data. Okay, so most times in organizations, before you collect data, you must submit what is called your data collection plan. And that data collection plan is a step-by-step, or is a detailed document that explains to us what you intend to do and how you intend to go about it, so that we can troubleshoot it before you actually get to the field and bring us a data that we don't want. So, and that's what a data collection plan is. For those in the academics, if you, or those who have done a postgraduate study, you will find out that this data collection plan is what is contained in what you call your chapter 3, research methodology. And in that research methodology, for those who are in the academics, you can quickly relate with this. The research methodology, that's where you have the detail on how you intend to collect your data. It talks about your target population. Who do you want to collect data from? How will you collect the data from them? Okay, what techniques will you use? What instrument will you use? How will the instrument be structured? Something very detailed. And so if you're doing an academic study, maybe a postgraduate research, is called your research method. Is contained in your research method. But that's a data collection plan. And that plan can be, we can actually just pull out the various items in the data collection plan. So, and that's what I'm going to share with us now. When you want to design your data collection plan, especially for maybe business analytics, or you work in the development space, what do you need to consider in designing your data collection plan? The first one is called data accuracy. Data accuracy. And what is this data accuracy? It's actually talking about the level of precision with which the data you collected, the level of precision with which you want to collect a particular data. Now, in one way or the other, we are all collecting data. However, what differs in the kind of data we all collect is the level of precision with which we want that data collected. Okay, let me do a very simple data collection with us here now. And so let's use the chart. On the chart, you're going to answer this. What do you know? Or what is your perception of people who studied physics? What is your perception of people who studied physics or / mathematics? What is your perception of people who studied physics / mathematics? Okay, so just type in the chat group, and if you will want to share your perception, you can unmute your mic and speak back to us. What's your perception? Yes. Okay, good. Solid Dio said they are expected to be good with calculations. Okay, good. Yes, let's get more perception. They are good at calculations. Okay, good. Yeah, Uchena, are you asking a question that their perception as human beings? Okay, they have numerate skills. Okay, Mr. Kasali said people think they are expected to become teachers. Okay, okay, good. Okay, good. Let's get more feedback on what's your perception of people who studied physics or studied mathematics. They are analytical. Okay. Yeah, Bolade said they are analytical. Okay, good. Let's get more feedback. Let's get more feedback. Let's get more feedback. Any more feedback about people who studied physics? Okay, they are logical thinkers. They are logical thinkers. Okay, good. Now, yeah, so we're going to take each of these, maybe one or two of these feedback as, okay, they are considered accurate in data collection, Bridget, okay. So let's take, they are very calculative. Okay, good. So let's take one of these feedback and troubleshoot that feedback and see how did this person arrive at this perception? How did you arrive at this conclusion about people who studied physics / mathematics? I love this one from Ghana. He said okay, no, from Femi. He said they have wild dreams and expectations. Okay. Ghana said they are good in physics and in calculation. Of course, okay. And Dina said they are quick problem solvers. But let's troubleshoot one of these. I'm going to ask Mr. Femi Oyetayo to unmute his mic and talk back to us. How did you arrive at the conclusion that they have wild dreams and expectations? Of course, it was through some, yeah, so share with us how you arrived at that. Maybe you had a friend who studied physics and all of that. Okay, so Mr. Femi Oyetayo, kindly unmute your mic and just give us a feedback. How did you arrive at that they have wild dreams and expectations?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm a science student, and I said this because it's based on the way I think. So I've always wanted to study physics, and so it's a personal experience, and I look at the life of Albert Einstein and popular German physicist.
Okay. Okay, good.
And these guys, they are really, I'll call them genius, and they really want to discover something good.
Good.
Yeah. So that's the reason why I say they have wild dreams, and that is the dream of each physician, to always cause discovery or to bring about a change in life.
Fantastic. Now, if you look at his data collection, Austin, my network is fluctuating. Please give me a feedback if you can hear me and it is clear, so that we can troubleshoot what Austin is saying. But however, let's look at what Femi just said about physics and mathematics. Now that they have wild dreams, his data was collected from personal experience, and then also from some few physicists that he studied, Albert Einstein and the rest of them. And he concluded that they have wild dreams. Do you know that there are many people who studied physics and they don't even have dreams, not to talk of the wild dreams? Okay, and so many of them. However, anytime Mr. Femi sees a physicist or a mathematician, he quickly can associate that with having that they have wild dreams. And why he sees that is from the few data he has collected. It may not be accurate, but by his experience, his own personal experience, and the few people he had encountered, he is able to come to that conclusion. You know, in our data classes, we used to ask the question that what's your perception of Yoruba people? And you see a lot of people say, Yoruba people like pepper, they like pepper people, pepper. You know, and when you troubleshoot that data that they've collected, you find that maybe one time when they were in school, they had a roommate who was Yoruba, and every time he cooks, he puts a lot of pepper. Then he met another person. Then he met another person. That data they've collected had formed a perception that this group of people, they love pepper. But do you know that there are quite a number of these people group that don't even eat pepper? So meaning that we can collect data and form opinion even for decision making with a set of data with a degree of accuracy. So the level of accuracy, the level of precision you are looking for in your decision making will determine your data collection plan, the amount of data you will collected, what will be your sample size, how many people will I collect this data from. For instance, if I want to collect a much more precise and accurate data about people's perception on physicists, I'm going to ask many more people. I'm going to study many more physics graduates and students. So with all of this put together, I will be able to come up with a much more precise opinion than what you have from personal experience of 3 or 4, 5 persons. So, and this plays a lot in data collection. In fact, in the development space, there are times that we just want to collect what is called sharp data. We call it quick data. We really are not interested in high level precision. We just want a bit of information about that subject matter. For instance, sometimes last year, the vice president visited a market in Abuja, Garki Market. Now, visiting Garki Market, a lot of people will come to him. Baba, we don't have gate, we don't have this, we don't have light, we don't. A lot of feedbacks will be generated. Very quick data, but does not necessarily represent a highly precise data. It will just be some spontaneous data that they can quickly return back to the office and make do of. Okay, so in designing your data collection plan, you are concerned about how accurate do you want, how precise do you want that data collection, that data you have collected to be. Okay, good. The second thing we'll always consider in designing a data collection plan is what is called data validity. Data validity. Okay, Lawrence, you're welcome. We've not gone that far, so you can catch up. So for today, we're actually introducing data collection and just trying to get ourselves familiarized with that concept. So I've talked about data accuracy, and I'm going to be talking about data validity. Data validity. For those in the academics, this is one concept that we hear all the time. You have validation of instrument, test for reliability. Now, what is data validity? What is data validity? Okay, before I explain what data validity is, okay, someone's mic is on. I think, Babatunde, your mic is on, but I can mute you from here, so I just mute you. Okay, good. So don't bother, I've muted you already. Okay, good. So what do we think is data validity? When we talk about data validity, these are concepts that you will keep hearing. Data validity, of course, is just an English word. What is data validity? This plays a very huge role in determining your data collection plan. Lawrence, you're raising your hand. Bridget, you're raising your hand. Do you want to say something? If you want to, you can unmute your mic and speak to us. But what is data validity?
Hello.
Yes, hi. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I can.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
From what you have said, quickly, I just want to say now, when you talk about data validity, I think it really stands for when you get your data, as in your facts, not just getting the facts, but then as you get them, make sure they're concrete and not just things that you just gather around and then it is not really, you don't tend to know how concrete it's real or not, and not just abstract data, abstract facts.
Okay, yeah.
That you just get. Okay, so you really need to understand the data that you've got already.
Okay, so yeah, fantastic one. That's a very good one. I'm careful with the word abstract because sometimes in data collection, we are actually also capturing abstract idea, but I understand the perspective from which you are sharing that. So let's get more back.
In as much as you get, sorry to cut you short.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
In as much as we're talking about, yes, in as much as we're talking about abstract, it's not really abstract. You know, definitely by the time you gather data, in collecting data, you bring in abstract facts. But then in making sure that you go out to get those facts concrete, validating them means you have to not just getting them alone, but make sure they are correct and they are okay for what you want to use it for. I think that is what
you have used the word I've been waiting for. Correct. That the data you have collected is correct. And you see, this word correct is relative. So when we go further into looking at validity, you understand the perspective of what we mean by that correctness. But that's good. Maybe someone else wants to share what data validity is. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. That was quite a very good one. Yes. data validity. Okay, good. When we talk of data validity, we're trying to answer this question, that how well does the data collection instrument correspond to what we intend to measure? That means, to what extent is that instrument able to do what we have asked it to do? You know, when we are collecting data to based on an intended outcome. For instance, I want to find out the number of extension workers in Nigeria. I want to identify extension. Yes, Edegbai said ground truthing. Yes, I agree with that absolutely. Now, so we're saying that you want to identify the number of extension workers in Nigeria. Data validity is saying that to what extent is the instrument you have designed, to what extent can it do that purpose for which you have designed it? To what extent can that instrument fulfill the purpose for which it has been designed? Okay, and I'll share with us some example. Of course, we're going to treat validation again as a topic of its own. In data validity, we're going to be talking of things like phase validation. We're going to be talking of things like construct validation. We're going to be talking of things like content validation, and you will see how these things work. Okay, good. Now, so validation, basically, data validity has to do with the extent to which that instrument you have designed, that data collection instrument, to what extent can it do what you have asked it to do? Okay. I remember one study that I was on, that's about 5 years now, 5 years ago. It's, I know most of us are familiar with FADAMA, the FADAMA project. We in Nigeria, we had the FADAMA 1, FADAMA 2, FADAMA 3, and different phases of the FADAMA project. So there was a time they wanted to measure FADAMA 3. It was an impact assessment for FADAMA 3. And they wanted to collect data from the farmers on how effective the project was. So I happened to be on the other end of the analysis to analyze that data. But when trying to analyze that data, I found out that that data was actually not a useful data. And the major component that was missing in the data collection was the data validity. The major component that was missing is the data validity. For instance, the instrument was designed, but it wasn't designed with the farmers in mind. So the instrument is not able to collect the kind of data they want it to collect. It cannot fulfill the purpose for which it has been created. Okay, so for instance, the use of words, the kind of English that was used was not appropriate for farmers. The use of word was not appropriate for the farmers. Okay, I'm sure maybe some of us may have handled maybe they gave you a questionnaire. You just put your hand somewhere in the middle of the questionnaire and just be ticking. You are not even reading it because the questions are not relatable. The questions may be too worded or something. For this FADAMA 3 project, the English was more like you are trying to administer a questionnaire to a professor. You understand? You want to ask rural farmers questions, but the English with which they have constructed the questionnaire was more like you wanted to administer a questionnaire to a professor. You know, so the instrument could not fulfill the purpose for which it has been created. So do you know what the farmers did? They just looked for a convenient place in the questionnaire, and it was in the days of paper-based data collection. They just look for a convenient place, maybe strongly agree. They'll just be ticking all the strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree. Because someone in the data collection plan had missed the process of the data validity. So how well can that instrument deliver on its intended purpose? Please give me a feedback if the explanation of data validity is clear. Of course, as we go on with this project or with this training, we will do a lot of validation and you'll see how it goes. So give me a feedback, just give me a yes if my explanation on data validity, if that was clear enough. Good, good, thank you, Nicholas, thank you, fantastic. Okay, thank you, Lawrence, Bolade, thank you, good, yes, that means that was clear, okay? And I'm going to call the names of some validation. We will look at them much more in-depthly as we progress. And so you will hear something like phase validation. Please don't forget this, phase validation. You will hear things like content validation. You will hear things like construct validation. Phase validation, content validation, construct validation. Of course, for those who are in the academics, this is not new to them because, Jeku, do you want to, I don't understand your question here. Jeku Ona, you said specific. Can you elaborate on what you actually want from that question so that I can go back on it? Jeku Ona, yes. Yeah, so but while you are trying to do that, I'll just continue my explanation. For those in the academics, this is even mandatory. If you've done a postgraduate study, content validation, yes. Content validation, I meant content validation. Okay, good. But because I'm going to explain them much more later when we are looking at validation as a, when we are treating validation fully as a topic. Yeah, so I'm going to look at that much more details when we're treating validation. Okay. The next thing I'm going to look at is data reliability. Data reliability. This is different from data validation. And in fact, if you have been involved in instrument design, instrument development, whether in the, you come across this a lot of times. I'm currently working on a government project, and some people are queuing. I don't have them here. Uju, I don't have them here. I've been accepting everyone that's coming in as they are coming. But I'm trying to go check again the queue and see maybe I omitted something. So yeah, okay, maybe it was before I admitted them. Please, can we always get into the class before 10 o'clock so that it will help us minimize this? But currently, Ujunwa, there's no one on the queue. There's no one on the queue. Yeah, so I'll keep checking from time to time. Thank you for the feedback. Okay. Now, so like I was saying, so I'm currently working on a project for the government, you know, and for the instrument development, we're currently on the data reliability phase. Okay, in instrument development, the data accuracy is a decision you take. And that decision influences your sample size, how many people we are going to interview or collect data from. That your decision and the data accuracy influences that. But data validity has to do with when you are designing this instrument. You are looking at what extent is this instrument able to do. No. Now, so at this point, we've not already collected the data. I'm still looking at the data collection plan, but I'm looking at it in its futuristic. Yes, I understand what you're saying, Uchenna, because there's also what we call data validation. I understand what you're saying, Uchenna. Yes, so when we collect data, we also test for the validity of the data we have collected. But at this point, we're trying to plan for that data. So in planning for that, we are ensuring that the instrument we want to use, the collection, that it's able to produce data as in the form that we need it. Please mute your mic. Umor's mic is on, except you want to say something to us. Akinwale, okay, I may just mute you from here. But please, let's keep our mics muted. Yes. Uchenna, is that clear? I hope, yeah, I like the feedback. You said it's confusing. Yes. Uchenna, please give me a feedback if you got my perspective now, and then we can make progress. But I understand the perspective from which you are, yeah. Yes, it should be instrument validation. I agree with you. Uchenna, yes, it should be instrument validation. Okay, but why I'm not using instrument validation? Why I'm not using instrument validation is because I am talking about the data collection plan. Yes, is called instrument validation. In fact, in your postgraduate research, you will see there as validation of instrument, reliability of instrument, and the rest of that. Yeah. So why I called it use data instead of instrument, because we're still talking of the data collection plan. Okay, thank you, Uchenna, for that feedback. Good. Okay, good. So let's make progress. Now we have looked at validity, we're looking at reliability. Now, when it comes to reliability, we're looking at the extent to which the data collection system is stable and consistent across time and space. Unlike validity, where we're trying to look at the extent to which the instrument is able to do what we intend it to do, in reliability, we're looking at the extent to which the data collection system, the instruments, everything you have planned for your data collection, the extent to which it is stable and consistent across time and space. That space is location. I mean, across different times and across different locations. Now, you see, when we're collecting data from a population, usually we will not be able, or usually we may not be able to assess the total population. For instance, if I'm doing a study on perceived usefulness of extension services. Okay, look at this study. I want to look at the perceived usefulness. Perceived usefulness of extension service in the Nigerian agro value chain. So I want to look at how do people perceive the usefulness of extension service in our value chain, in our agricultural value chain. Okay, do people think that extension service is useful, needed, relevant? You know, so what's people's perception of their usefulness? okay, or extension service in the value chain. Now, I may not be able to interview or collect data from the entire Nigerian farmers or the entire Nigerian aggregators, you know, or the entire Nigerian agro producers or people who are into refining, you know, so I may not be able to collect. I may have to sample and collect from a representative sample of that population. Now, my test for reliability is to be able to affirm that this instrument that I want to use to go and collect this data is able to consistently do what we intend it to do at various locations, at various sample clusters of my intended population. Okay, so farmers and aggregators in Benue State, farmers and aggregators in Enugu State, is this instrument, will it be consistent across these various locations? If I collect in February and I'm going to collect again in March, will it be consistent across time? Okay, please give me a feedback if my explanation of reliability is clear. Just give me a feedback of a yes if you got that. Yes. And if it's confusing, just give me a feedback that, oh, that's a bit confusing. Then I'll call Uchenna Oyali to maybe break that down more. Okay, very clear, Jiku. Thank you for that feedback. I do appreciate. Okay, good. Nicholas, yes. Abolade. Okay, okay. Edebai, I should go over it again. Yes, so I'll do that. I'll do that again. When we talk of reliability, reliability is from the word yes, yes. Oh, yes, maybe as I explain this question of Uchenna, it will answer Edebai. A data collection, a data can be valid but not reliable. Can be valid but not reliable. So, and from the instrument also, an instrument can be valid but not reliable. So it may be able to do what we intend it to do, but it's not able to do that consistently across different time and across different location. That's why if you have been involved in any foreign, using any foreign tool for a local study, like for instance, I handled some analytics for organizations, maybe like DFID, for instance, and you're working on a health project. Some of these projects already have their instrument already designed. The instrument, what we want to use for data collection, has already been designed. It may have been used maybe in Angola. They used it in Angola, maybe during the Ebola crisis. They used this questionnaire to find out the perception of people on Ebola in Angola. You see, that instrument was valid. But when you want to use it in the Nigerian context, it has not changed its validity, but reliability will need to be tested again, because we now need to see to what extent can it be consistent across different locations and time. And for reliability is a statistics that we will test, and we will see how we go about that. Uchenna, I'd like to know if that answers the question for you. Okay, Uchenna, this time around, I'll ask you to unmute your mic. And okay, no, I'll ask you to unmute your mic and maybe give a perspective. Yes.
No, I don't know. I'm just trying to understand point.
Yeah, no, please give a
Well,
perspective.
if data is valid, then it should be reliable. You know, telling me that data could be valid and not reliable, and the distinctions you are trying to make, I don't really follow,
Okay, so good.
because
Okay, so let,
if
let me
something, if some study was done, say in January, and you want to repeat the study in March, certain is a different period. So there's a different variable involved, and you shouldn't expect exactly the same answer, except if time doesn't affect the data you want to collect. So a lot depends on the kind of research you want to do. But the distinction between data validity, data reliability, for now, not yet clear to me, but go on.
Okay. So let me try again, Uchenna. Let me try again. Maybe this time around I'm able to
Go
do
on,
it.
serious.
Eh?
Maybe I'll pick it up in between.
Okay,
Maybe
so
I'll pick the difference in between. Just go on.
okay, good. So but let me try again. Maybe this time around it's a bit clearer on what we're talking about. Now, let me use a psychological test, for instance. There are tests that are standardized tests. They are standardized instruments. Standardized instrument, meaning that they've done the validation of that instrument. And when we're talking of validation, for instance, we're talking of things like face validation. That means facially, if you look at that instrument, the language is clear, is concise, is well written. Okay? But when you want to administer that instrument, we do what again we call test for reliability. And that test for reliability has to do more about the stability of that instrument, the consistency of it to produce the same result that we will expect. Okay? So when I mean it could be valid in terms of instrument, meaning that that instrument is concisely well worded, well written, the use of word is appropriate. We've done the construct validation. That means the questions we have put together, it addresses the constructs, the objectives, the indicators that we want to measure. Everything in that instrument addresses it. But this time around, we are now trying to see, is it consistent across time? And most time when you don't test for reliability of an instrument, you end up having, you may be lucky the instrument works well, or you may be lucky you use the instrument because you didn't test for reliability, you have a garbage in, and then your answers are also garbage out. But the reliability helps us to find out how consistent that tool is, across the sample clusters for which that instrument has been designed for. And oftentimes that's what we do when we try to pilot tests, when we are collecting a pilot data. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to test for the consistency of that too. So we're using a sample cluster that looks like, that shares the same characteristics with the population cluster we want a data from. Okay, so that we're able to find out how consistent that tool is.
Yes. Okay, just a quick one.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
I think my confusion is,
yeah, is it Uchenna that is speaking? Okay, yes, Uchenna, please go ahead.
Separate data from the instrument. Yes, it's Uche speaking. Because when you talk about data validity, data reliability, I am thinking of the data and not
you are
the
thinking
instrument.
of it from the end result of the data. Okay, no. Okay, so let me do this now.
Of course, because it is data we are talking about,
yeah,
and
okay,
not
so,
instrument.
Okay,
so if you're saying instrument reliability, then it will be clearer. But it's okay then. No
okay,
problem.
let me do it this way. Maybe it's now.
Let's go
on. A bit clearer for you, sir.
It's better now.
Okay, so Okay. Why I'm using data? Because I'm talking of, these are background things that happens before we actually even start collecting the data. It's just a plan. We're still talking of the data collection plan. I understand data reliability and data validity from the perspective you are looking at it from. Okay. But we have not even gone to collect this data. We are making a plan. And so we said in designing your plan, these are things you must consider: the accuracy of the data, validity of the data, the reliability of the data. And so in planning for that, we are actually talking of the reliability of the instrument you want to go and use. Okay, good. Okay. So reliability is from the word reliable. And when we say reliable, reliable is different from being valuable or valid. Reliable has to do with something is consistent. This person is reliable. That means consistently we can say he will do the same thing like he will always do. Okay, and so that's what we are looking at there. Uchenna, I hope it's a bit clearer now, but however, sir, I understand your perspective, but let's make progress. The last thing we always look at when we're designing our plan. Okay, sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate. Okay. So one thing we always look again is the timeliness of the data. Timeliness. So we look at reliability, we look at validity, we look at accuracy. Now, in timeliness, we're looking at assessing the needed information in time to make timely decision making possible. That means this particular data we want to collect, at what time bound is this thing even relevant? Does it have a time boundary? When is it needed? You know, when is this information still relevant or still needed? And this informs the kind of plan that you make. I remember during my PhD, my supervisor will always crack a joke that some persons, why they are not able to finish their postgraduate program, just a joke for him anyway, is that they bite too much. Huh? They bite too much than they can chew. They want to solve the whole problem of the universe in their master's or their PhD program. So they are not looking at the time frame allotted for this. So in designing your data collection plan, you are also looking at a time frame that this information is needed, so that you don't design what is too elaborate and your time frame cannot capture it, what you have designed cannot fit into the time frame for which that information is needed. I had one of my friends during our postgraduate studies. She was, anyway, very, it's funny, but that cost her a lot, much more than, so it's not fun for her. She was studying Millennium Development Goal. I don't know if many of us still remember MDG. She was studying she was doing an impact assessment on MDG, doing a postgraduate in economics. She was doing an impact assessment on the Millennium Development, the MDG, and the MDG program in Nigeria then. But unfortunately for her, the project was actually very elaborate. She and her supervisors, they were having cold feet, dragging here and there. By the time she finished the work on MDG, MDG had expired, and we now had SDG. So when she came to defend the project, every time she mentions MDG, everybody's looking like, as in, do you know that this program don't exist again? Now, so we're talking of a time frame that this information is needed, and the time frame for which the decision they want to take using that data, the time frame for that, so that you don't design something too elaborate that at the end of the day, it cannot fit in. Of course, this is the story of many M&E officers. You design a data collection plan, or researchers or postgraduate research students. You design a research plan that, of course, you can't finish it in 2-3 years, and you want to do it in a 12-month postgraduate program. Okay, M&E is monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation. Now, so what we do in terms of research, collect data in the development space or in project management, we have what is called monitoring and evaluation. We collect data on a project to monitor if the project is going well, and at the end of the day to also evaluate the project if the project has met its desired need. So a lot of times in the development space, you have an M&E officer who is very ambitious. He has designed a data collection plan that outlives the project lifespan, and no, so it's now not useful in making improvement needs for that project. Okay, good. So I'm just going to do this. Try to find out if we all remember the 4 things to consider when designing a data collection plan. So if you do, just tell me any of them, and you can unmute your mic and tell me what you understood by those concepts. Yes. Please don't forget to also tell us your name. Yeah, data accuracy. Please, Solidayo, please unmute your mic. Tell us what you understood by data accuracy.
Hi, my name is Solidayo Lagagi, joining you from Taraba State.
Please go ahead, yes.
Talking about data accuracy, which was the first, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so data accuracy, so like you said earlier that there's no point taking data when the data isn't accurate, like it's befitting for the purpose of which it's destined to be used. So your data has to be accurate for the purpose for which which it's supposed to be used for. So, and it's an important, I guess it's very important. That's why you listed it as the first step in data collection and all that. So, yeah.
Okay, yes. Now, when we talk of this accuracy, it's an extent, is a degree. Meaning that sometimes I want to collect data, but not really very, very precise data. Just something to quickly inform a perspective. Of course, if you manage organizations for some management staff, sometimes you just come out of your office and just peep at the office nearby you, maybe your staff office, to see what they are doing. In peeping, in that observation, you have collected data, but how accurate is that data is a different thing. Maybe I just want to see, are my staff working? Then you just peep. Then you see somebody working on the system. That's data collection. But to what extent is that accurate? It depends on what I need per time. So if I now want to do a very, very in-depth performance appraisal, I will do beyond peeping. I will now design a much more concise instrument for performance appraisal. So what we're saying is that in designing a data collection plan, you are considering also how precise do you want the data collected to be. So there are times, like I use the pigeon word, there are times we just need sharp data. Okay, we want to find out this, you just travel to the location, just do some brief observation to kind of inform a perspective. So data accuracy is talking about the extent. So if you want something really very precise, it will inform your choice of instrument. It will inform even the reliability coefficient that you will accept, because the reliability is a coefficient, is a statistics we will calculate. It will also influence the reliability coefficient that you will accept, okay? And so many other things like that to go. Must every data have to have a limit? No, depending on the research, depending on this, what the study looks like, depending on what the intention of the data, what the intent for the data is for. Okay, good. So somebody else wants to talk about the other ones we've discussed. Thank you, Mr. Soledayo, for that perspective. Okay, I will start calling name because I love having people talk in the class. You know, remote classes now, we're not saying physically, but if you keep the conversation, I'm able to know what you got, what you're confused about, what needs further explanation. Yes. Mr. Nicholas, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Yes,
yeah. I want to talk on the data reliability.
Yes.
So it's talking about stability and consistency of such a data collection instrument with respect to time and then location.
And location. Good. Fantastic. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That is always consistent, it's always stable. Yeah, that's what I want to add.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Fantastic. And that's the perspective. Thank you. Yes. Ghana, you want to talk about validity? So let's hear you.
Okay, data validity. Basically, when we collect data, it's not just data, but are they reliable? Are they what we want? Is it okay for the particular purpose of which this data is required? So these are, I think, from my understanding, it's like a mid-level that you want, if I may say, because there are different levels. So is it okay?
Is it doing what you want it to do?
Particular purpose,
what
you want it to do.
Yes. Is it serving the purpose for which
that's
yes. Okay,
of course, there are different types of validation you can do. Of course, face validation, just as you said, you can decide to keep into an office to see if someone is just sitting down in front of the computer. Then, if that's okay for you, then fine. But if you want to dig deeper, you want to know what that person actually doing there, and also you could have a content validation and then construct validation, and then content validation has to do with the content of what the data are, as the exact content of it. But the construct validation, I still don't understand what it means.
Yes, in fact, we have not even talked about the validation types. I just mentioned them so that when we start developing the instrument, we can now take this instrument through these phases. I'm going to now explain how we do them, and then see how that applies to what we're talking about here. Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes. So one more. I'm tempted to call names, and just to be sure that you're following. Bridget, do you want to talk to us about timeliness? Yeah, so just talk to us. Let's hear your perspective. Shola, what you are asking, actually, as we go on, we will use some of these businesses for case studies when we're looking at business analytics, and you will see how they use data. So I may not necessarily want to fit this into validity, yes, validity and the rest of that. Is Bridget speaking to us yet? No. Okay, so I'm going to make progress. So let's go on. So what does this data collection plan, what does it look like? These are decisions you are taking. In data collection plan, you want to tell us the source of data. You want to tell us the type of data you want to collect. You want to tell us the frequency at which you are going to collect that data. You want to tell us which instrument, what kind of instrument will you use to collect that data? And in fact, what kind of analysis will you do on that data? You know, so this forms the entire story you want to tell us in your data collection plan. Source of data. So you want to be able to tell us whether we're going to be collecting this data from primary source or secondary source. And so let me quickly ask, what is the difference between a primary source of data and secondary source? Okay, so I'm also going to take our feedback through the chat. Okay, Stefania, good, yes. So let's talk about primary and secondary source. In your data collection plan, you must mention this. What kind of source, where will the data be coming from? Are you going to be using both sources? Are you going to be taking from just one source? Are you going to be taking from primary or secondary source, or you're going to be using both? So I'm now asking, what is the difference between a primary source and a secondary source? Yes, okay. Caleb, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. The difference between secondary and primary data.
Yes.
Already available in the space before, maybe not necessarily for that particular research, but something that has been in the that is already available, maybe done for another kind of research that is related to the one one is interested in conducting. While the primary are the data gathered primarily for the project that one is about doing. So that the differences between the two from my own perspective.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. And I agree with your perspective too, sir. Yeah, somebody else wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah, if you gather your data first, and then I use the same data to do my own analysis, does it make it secondary? Because it is the same data. I am not using a kind of analyzed version by you, but I'm using the same raw data you used, just that I didn't gather it myself. I don't think that makes the data secondary.
No, it doesn't make it secondary. It's still primary. Actually, secondary sources are more of the processed data from already published works,
exactly.
Yeah, so, but primary source is that you are collecting firsthand, either via a proxy. So what happened to yours is that somebody collected the raw information and gave to you. Yes. Yes, so secondary sources could be from literatures, from
excuse
books.
me.
These are already processed. Yes. Somebody wants to make a contribution. Please go ahead. I heard excuse me. Go ahead, sir. Yes.
Yeah, primary data is data
I'd like to know who is
collected by
speaking.
your
Is that Mr. Ladoja? Huh?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good. Okay, good.
You collect. Yes. My name is Ayuba. Yeah. You collected primary data for a research purpose with outline objectives.
Yes.
And the secondary data is the one collected not by you. It could be for different purpose, but you extract of primary and secondary data. Secondary data is meant for different purpose, but you could equally get some data from it to suit your own purpose.
Yes.
It's like getting overall data about something, then you extract some objective from that data that you want to really analyze.
Yes.
That's the difference from.
Yes, yes, and that perspective too is, yes, that's it. And so usually secondary sources, you see their literature works. Somebody had written a perspective to certain things. So you are trying to get from what's already processed, a literature work, a published paper, policy documents, you know, that you are now trying to review. Okay, usually the primary sources are, you are going to collect this data now firsthand, either using questionnaire, interviews, interviewing the people, the subjects themselves, and thereabout. Okay, so once you establish this, which was, yes, somebody wants to share perspective. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Your name, sir. Yes.
I'd like to. My name is Femi.
Okay,
Femi.
good. Yes, good.
So I'd like to ask a question, and the question is that is there a kind of data that's in between, let's say between primary and secondary? Because, for example, we design marine structures. Maybe you want to design a structure maybe for an oil company or whatever.
Yes.
And as an engineer, sometimes we get a primary data, maybe wave data or current.
Yes.
We take our instrument there.
And
We're on the shore for many days, getting the data. And on some other, yes, but at some other time, it's too expensive. So we rely on maybe satellites from the US website. We pay them, so they send us this data. So in this way, we know they got the data to maybe from some wave boy or from somewhere, we don't know. But we are sure that they got it to somewhere. So will I call that a secondary data or still a primary data?
No, I really would not want to call that a secondary data, because they are still collecting the direct data and sharing with you. The only difference is that because data collection, you know, it's shared that data collection tools have changed tremendously in the last 5 years. Now, for instance, remote data collection using satellite imaging is something we were not doing before. So if you read previous books on primary sources, it may be talking of questionnaires and you directly go, but we know that you can collect same primary data using remote satellite imaging. You are buying from them, okay? Because you don't control the satellite. They are still collecting the primary data. What we are saying as secondary data is that data from that oil site, somebody had already processed it and written a report on the wavelengths of blah, 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 blah in Nigerian oil industry. Then you pick that from that study. That's a secondary source, because you may now get different opinion from different secondary sources. This is different from the perspective that you are sharing. So I think it still falls under primary sources, but of course, some persons may want to throw perspective in here. Yeah. Okay, good. So once you mention what the source of data is going to be, the next thing is that we're going to look whether Is it going to be a qualitative data? Is it going to be a quantitative data? What kind of data will I collect? And so I will throw this back to us again. What is qualitative? What is quantitative? So qualitative and quantitative, please let's respond. Qualitative and quantitative. So yes. So you also want to share with us, what kind of data are you going to collect? Is it going to be qualitative? Is it going to be quantitative? So what kind of data do we call as qualitative? Bless you. Yeah. Okay, Jeku, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think qualitative data has to do with numbers, or something that has to do with collecting, using numbers to have using numericals. Can you get what I said?
No, I didn't get you. You said? Please say that again.
Now, what I'm saying is qualitative data. And what I mean is qualitative data are things that are measurable. You know, like having numbers. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is qualitative data has to do with measurement of values, in the sense that data that can be expressed in as numbers, numerical variables.
Yes.
So
yes.
Something like that.
Yes. Yes.
Then I think then with regards to quantitative, that has to do with maybe images and pictures and other forms of expression.
Yes. 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 Okay. Good. Yes. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I agree absolutely with you on that. Yes. Yes, Stefania, you wanted to throw more light. Yes, please do.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, but your voice is really, really far off.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you want to come closer to your mic?
Yes, I am very close to it. I don't
Okay,
know what
better
happens
now.
here.
It's better now.
Yes, I think the qualitative is more for the humanities. For example, talking about attitudes of people which need explanation, not a yes or no answers. Whereas the quantitative are more measurable, as the former speaker said, for the natural sciences and I think to some extent also the social sciences. I hope that makes the point.
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay, basically, we try to lump all the kind of data that are not in numerics, that are not numbers. We try to lump them as qualitative data. Of course, they are words, they are text-based, they are images, they are in video forms, they are in non-numeric forms. And in the course of this training, we're going to be looking at how to analyze qualitative data. This is one kind of data set that a lot of data analysts actually try to run away from, shy away from. And we'll see how to analyze videos, how to analyze pictures, how to analyze texts, and you see the different tools we can use for them, including how to even mine qualitative data. These days now, all of the data you're trying to go collect can be gathered on social media. For instance, your Twitter, your Facebook is a bunch of data already, okay? So how can we mine data? I want to do a study. How can I collect data directly from Twitter? How can I collect data directly from Facebook? Okay, I hope all of us know that tools, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they are data hubs. In fact, the amount of data on Facebook is unbelievable. Okay, so instead of going to one location to go and be collecting, asking people questions, most of these questions are already answered while people are sharing opinion on social media. When people tweet, when people write on Facebook, how do I collect them? You will be looking at tools that allows you to plug into Twitter and collect data. Data in their tons of thousands, and collect them and make meaning from them. Plug into Facebook, collect data that you can use for your business analytics and the rest of that. And you see how organizations are plugging into these to also share with you tailored adverts and the rest of that. Okay, good. Now, so these are decisions you will need to take, and you need to let us know what kind of data will you collect. Is it going to be qualitative? Is it going to be quantitative? And what will be the frequency of that data collection? Will it be collected annually, daily, quarterly? What is going to be the frequency? What instrument will you use? Will you use a questionnaire? Will you do an interview? Will you do a focus group discussion? Will you use satellite imaging? Will you use some kind of instruments for data collection? What will you use? What will be the instrument for data collection? Hello? Is somebody saying something? Please mute your mic once you have spoken, except you want to say something. What data analytic tools will you be using? So all of this will be stated in your data collection plan. Yes, quantitative data are numerics. Okay, there's a statement here that I skipped. Yes, somebody talked about tertiary sources. Of course, yes, there are tertiary sources of information. And it's nothing different from what you already have as your primary and secondary source. Actually, tertiary sources are a synthesis of what you already have in your secondary source. For instance, textbooks. They have information already processed from maybe a primary or secondary source, then you are picking from that. We call that tertiary sources. But basically, to not be very confusing, we talk about the primary and the secondary sources. Of course, we know that there are also the tertiary sources. Things like your reference books, they are tertiary sources. Quantitative data are basically numeric data. Data that are in numbers and which we use basically for our statistical analysis. They are in numbers, they are numerics, they are in numbers. They are in numbers. Your financial data, your questionnaire, converting people's opinion into numbers, strongly agree, strongly disagree, so quantitative data basically in numerics, and qualitative data, the non-numerics kind of data, yes. Okay, good. So once you sort all of this out, the next thing we'll be looking at is instrument development. This time around, we want to develop the instrument, okay? and we'll be breaking down this into small bits, and we're able to now put this together and do work with this. Now, for today, basically what we're doing is just doing the theoretical. The second part of this training, which is on Thursday, is no longer slides. On Thursday, we will no longer be on slides talking. We're going to be doing. We're going to be building, doing. We're going to be using ODK, using Kobo tools, and seeing how it works. Now, when it comes to data collection, the process of creating your question is actually very key in developing your instrument. And what are the best practices for creating your instrument, your survey instrument? The first thing you need to be clear on is your study objective. You have to be clear on what the study is about, the hypothesis, the intended outcome. What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to do? Before developing any instrument, you must be very clear on the objective of the study, or what we intend to achieve in the study. That must be very, very clear. So, and we're trying to answer questions like, what is the purpose of the survey? What are we trying to measure? How many questions should we include? What type of rating scales should we use? How will we know that the survey worked? And that's where we'll be looking at the validation and the reliability. Okay, and then what will make the data actionable? Now, let's quickly pick a sample study and just be using that to build on this conversation. Now, I shared a particular topic. I said perceived usefulness. Perceived usefulness of extension service. Extension service in the agro value chain. So we're just trying to look at perceived usefulness of extension service in the agro value chain. Now, if you understand this slide and what I'm sharing here, the first thing is to understand what exactly do we want to achieve. So if you look at a topic like this or a study like this, what will you say is the intent of this study? Let me get perspective. Just troubleshoot. Just look at this title. What will you say is what is the intended outcome? What are they looking out for? What is the objective? What will be the objective of this study? Can we just try to troubleshoot around this?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
My first question will be, how do we measure perception?
Good. Now, good. Fantastic. I love this conversation. So how do we measure perception? That brings us to the things you need to look out for in developing instrument. Is called your indicators. Indicators. So what is asking now, what are the indicators that shows us, that helps us to measure perception, perceived usefulness? What are the indicators that we'll put together that if we find answers to those indicators, it will have measured perceived usefulness? Okay, please go ahead with your question, and probably in your question you will also, what are the indicators for perceived usefulness? Good.
Perception.
Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead. Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah. That's what I will, that's first line of thinking. How do we measure perception? Then when you know what are the indicator for measuring that perception, then that will lead to the data you collect. What are the data I needed to achieve to get all this, to analyze this indicator?
Good. In fact, once you get the indicators will tell you what your objectives will look like. Your small objectives, what we call the specific objective, the small objective that you will achieve in bits in order to achieve this central objective of knowing the perceived usefulness of extension service in the agro value chain. Okay, so let me throw this back to us. Yes, somebody is saying the role that extension service is playing to enhance agro value chain. Will that fit in? Contribution? Will that fit in? Okay, so good. Let me throw these questions for what are the indicators? What are the things that, if you are able to find answers to, will help us answer the question of the perceived usefulness of extension service? Okay, Abolade, you want to talk about indicators? Please go ahead.
The indicators, good afternoon, first of all. Thank you, the center. I want to say that the indicators will have to do with the kind of changes that have taken place. For example, when the extension service is introduced, and then we want to see exactly, maybe before the extension service introduced, there's a level of development in the agro value chain, which we measure. Maybe we say, okay, we have a particular percentage we give to it that, okay, they have been able to make some effort or make some result. They have been able to perform up to maybe 30%. And then when we now introduce the extension service, we want to know that something has happened. So when we see that change has taken place, a change has taken place by a particular, we use that changes in terms of maybe there's increase in revenue. Maybe the revenue has increased from so amount to another measure higher. So we say, okay, when we see that one that happened, then we can see that, okay, we can say and conclude that there is a role the extension services play to make the agro value chain to be different. So this is the kind of an
fantastic. That's a perspective.
Look at the change.
I cannot disagree.
Yeah, Mr. Abolade, you need to, we'll need to go back to that topic again. You see, and this is mental work that goes behind instrument development. Now, first, we need to understand the study, perceived usefulness of extension service in the agro value chain. So what are we trying to look for? What does that mean? What does that statement connote? What does that, what in its broad term, perceived usefulness? Now the word perceived there is the word perception.
Can I say something?
Yes, Mr. Uchenna, please, you can.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with the last person that spoke, because
yes.
The question is not about usefulness, it's about perceived usefulness. There are two different things.
Good.
One is what actually happens. The other is what people think
what
happens.
They are thinking in their heart.
You know, there's a difference between what. Yes, there's a difference between what people do and what they think they do.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a difference between what people do and what they think they do. So if you want to study what, how useful
how
the
they
service,
perceived extension service to be useful.
if you want to look at how useful extension services are, that's a different topic. If you want to look at how the people perceive it to be, that's a completely different topic.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you see that the first thing, you can't develop an instrument until you understand the study objective. Now, there is a difference from usefulness and perceived usefulness. So this time around, we're looking at perception. We're looking at what is the thinking? What are they thinking? You know, we're looking at perception, not just usefulness. So once you understand the study objective, the next thing is to begin to break that down into indicators. What indicators will help me measure how people think of a particular subject matter? Okay, good.
Yeah, hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Please go ahead.
I think the best way to follow, yeah, I think the best way to tackle this perception is to understand, have some indicators, because there are a lot of perceptions from different people. So, and that's the biggest issue of having bad data and good data. So, and I think the best way to tackle it is having some specific indicators which will now streamline and guide us to having, to knowing whether the extension services are important or not. And just like I mentioned, indicators like how do we use fertilizers? What are how does the improvement of crops and stuff like that? So to come out with a good indicators.
Okay, good.
Will now guide us on how we can see how the extension services are working.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I agree with you. So now is coming up with those indicators. Now, if you look at our time is gone. We have spent our time already. Now, this is how this class is going to progress. We'll start up this conversation. The 2 hours will not be enough in the class time here. We have a WhatsApp group opened for this class, one for conversation, for feedback, and all of that. So I'm going to share the link to that with us. And this, we will start our first take home on this particular project. I'd like you to look at what are the indicators that will help you measure perception. What are the indicators that will help you measure the perceived usefulness of extension service? Okay, so we will continue those conversations on the WhatsApp group together, and then on Thursday, we will have had all of our indicators outlined. We don't like to take your time. We start from 10 and we'll finish at exactly. Yes, go ahead, sir. Please go ahead. Somebody wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Yes. This is Lawrence. Please, you were talking about the indicators on the topic perceived usefulness. I'll agree with, I think Uchenna said something, that there is a difference between usefulness and there is a difference between usefulness and then the usefulness. Talking about the indicators in perceived usefulness of extension services. Now, extension services has to do with how you tend to give out services to farmers generally. And then one of the indicators might be probably how the resource persons tend to go out and give out elaborate and concise, would I say, teachings to those farmers. How are they useful to them? Because you're not just talking about the extension services that will just be there. How is it useful to them? And then it is the masses that will perceive, it is the masses that will think about how these things has affected them. I think that should be probably one of the indicators we get.
Yeah, so if I will pick from what you're saying, that in measuring perceived usefulness, we are not looking at it from, we're looking at it from the perspective of the users. That is, the people using this product, the farmers, what do they call them? The aggregators, okay? So we need to look at it from their perspective. So the indicators we are designing is tailored to them, okay? It's tailored to them. Now, so I've sent a link to the WhatsApp group. I've sent a link to the WhatsApp group. I just want each and every one of us to come up with at least 3 indicators that will measure perceived usefulness of extension service. So once you have your 3 indicators, just share it on the WhatsApp group. Okay? 3 indicators. Just share with us 3 indicators on the WhatsApp group.
Please, sorry to cut you short.
Please go ahead.
Can we get the link on the screen so that
it's on the chat. Okay, you want me to put it on the chat so you can just click now and join.
Okay.
Yes, you can just click now and join.
Okay.
The reason we're opening this WhatsApp group is the 2 hours class time will not be sufficient for us to, we want something much more hands-on and engaging. So on the WhatsApp group, plainly what we'll be doing is engaging on these discussions. Okay? Yes, and she has also shared our number. But once you click this link, it will take you straight to the WhatsApp, to the group, not just our WhatsApp. And I'm also on that group and every other facilitator. Okay, so, and lastly, for every day, we will always take attendance. Your attendance link will be sent to you immediately after this class. All you need to do is to just sign. Once you sign, you just click submit, that's all. And then we will have it. It will be sent to your email. We have your email. So you will see your attendance in your email immediately after this class. So any question for us before I round this up? So we'll take all the rest conversation to the WhatsApp group. Any other question or feedback? Yes, there's going to be certificates and there's going to be, it's not exam, but it's an examination. It's a test to see how much we have learned, and specifically with the tools we'll be learning, there's a rating for each of the tools. So we will see how far you have done with each of the tools. And then there's a certificate at the end of the training. Yes, you're going to get the PowerPoint. This PowerPoint module on data collection, once we're done on Thursday, I'm going to send the slide to us. Yep, I can't send this slide now because we still have Thursday to finish up with. So on Thursday, we're concluding this module, and then I'll share the slide. Yes, it's not certificate of participation. It's certification for using those tools. Yes. So it's likely not to. So, but most persons always do very well with those tools at the end of the training. So I'd like to thank you all. The session is recorded. You're going to get the recorded session immediately. It takes about 2 hours thereabout before you get the recording because we need to download and upload. So internet speed thereabout before we share the link with you. So you will get the recording also for today's class, but the slide will be on Thursday when we have concluded the module. Yes. So thank you for that feedback, Mr. Akinwale. Yes. I should resend the WhatsApp link. So I'm doing that now. Just hold on a bit and just send it. Okay, so that's the WhatsApp link. It has been sent again. Thank you everyone for being part of today's class. It's a journey. We're going 4 weeks, and I hope today's class was interesting and that you enjoyed every bit of it. Yes, okay, on email, okay, yes. Okay, that's a good one. Mr. Lawrence, so we'll do an email to everybody again now, and then the details will also be there. But the link is already here. You can just click on the link. But we'll do an email and with the instruction of what we're looking out for. Thank you, Mr. Caleb. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you, Eniola. We do appreciate your feedback. Okay, it's 12:04 already. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for being part of this training. Nicholas, thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you so much, everyone. We meet on WhatsApp and we continue our conversation.